Hi Sudhashu, how are you doing?
Great, sir. Yeah.
It's so nice to connect to you after many years. I think so. It's been a year, right? 1 year back, we
Yeah.
worked with you for a couple of months before your JEE.
Yes. A whole year has
And
passed.
1 year, yeah, time flies. And now you are at BITS Pilani, right?
Yes.
Great. So, Sudhanshu, I would love to know your experience before you connected to my mental coach. What you were going through, what exactly were the mindset challenges that you were facing in the run up to your JEE, and also what were your preparations like? You started your preparations 1 year before your exam, 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. So just give a first initial thoughts about your preparation time, and then we go on to your mindset challenges.
So basically, I started preparing quite a bit back, but the method of preparation was basically you study. That was all
Hmm.
that we did. That then, like for 11th standard, everything was just study, try to learn as much as you can.
Hmm.
Then for 12th, first I was the same, like let's complete the syllabus. That was the thing at that time. Then when you started practicing, then initially they'll start with easy questions and you're like, ये तो हो जाएगा easily.
Hmm.
But
Barabar.
slowly the difficulty increases. You don't realize that now this is where things start getting real. And
Hmm.
the thing is about my batch especially, we had everything like 11th, 10th, and first half of 12th also was online. So the whole
Right.
time we are just relaxing on our own table on our sofa and attending the lectures.
Right.
So we were in like the same bubble, the same comfort zone we have always been in.
Right.
And that thing of like the major problem that time was the peer interaction was very limited.
Hmm. Right.
Like the like after lectures, the like doubt clearing within friends after lectures that was not there. Going to eat with our friends that was not there at that time.
Hmm.
Now that caused us to be in studies only the whole time. We were
Right.
just studying and studying. There was no break as such.
Hmm.
And if you take a break, it, it would mostly be, say, a movie or YouTube.
Right.
That would extend. Like a movie is like 2.5 hours, and YouTube you can just go infinitely into that.
Absolutely. And you just then start feeling guilty about the time that you're wasting.
Yeah,
Hmm.
there was this another thing like you need to stay up until late to study, or
Right.
you have if you are sleeping early, then you need to wake up very early
Hmm.
and cover up that time which you lost by sleeping early.
Right.
And the whole time you should be thinking about studies. That was what we were kind of like indirectly told by the process.
Hmm. Hmm.
Every moment of your life is to study.
Hmm. And I think so. You connected to us just after your mains one, right? JE mains
Yeah.
one.
Yes. Yes.
And of course,
First
you
one.
were very disappointed at not getting the marks that, and I'm sure you were a very good student in your batch also, and overall, you always scored very high. And you used to score very good in your mock exams, but you didn't do as well in your mains one.
Yes.
What was that experience mentally? What were the challenges in terms of your confidence, in terms of the pressure that you were feeling? And I'm sure you must have tried your best, but it just doesn't work, isn't it? The mind just doesn't simply change the way you would expect it to change, right?
Yes. The thing was, this whole time, all the marks I would give it from my home.
Mm,
I'm on my table, comfortably giving exam. Now they were the timings used to be 9 to 12. So sometimes in between exams, I'm drinking tea, getting up to go to washroom, getting up to drink water. There was very like uh, a casual way of approach, a casual approach
Hmm.
to the exam. But during the actual one, like first of all, you're in a environment you don't know much about. Then the whole system is very different, which you're dealing with. There's You are just sitting there for 3 hours to give an exam.
Right. Right.
Max, you can get up to go to the washroom, but you're losing time on that.
Right.
And that is a exam where time does matter.
Yes.
Almost every exam, time is a integral factor.
Very true.
So you cannot just waste time just because you're not used to sitting for 3 hours.
Right.
The other thing is you are sitting there with a lot of many students like who are in the same thing as you, giving the same exam.
Competing for the same thing. Right.
Yeah. But what I had done in mock, I was just sitting alone in my house. Nothing is affecting me, and just doing what I wanted for the exam.
Hmm.
Or there is this subconscious thought that maybe someone other than me could solve this question which I could not. And he's in the
Hmm.
same area as I am.
Right. Hmm.
Also, the number of students when you see over there, and you check like I am on the fifth day out of the seven, and in the second batch, so there are
Right.
14 batches, and the my batch has such a huge number, and
Right.
that is just in one city, in one
Right.
of the centers of the city. So the number it like you hear like oh that's 12 lakh, 13 lakh, but you when you actually see it, it's too huge to visualize, and that also affects you.
Right.
Also, the thing is,
So, what are the thoughts that were going on that were troubling you? Thoughts and emotions that were troubling you, which you couldn't manage.
there's this anxiety of giving the exam. The
Right.
thing is, there was no plan B at that time.
Hmm.
That was the only thing that's going to decide what is going
Hmm.
to happen with me.
Hmm.
So there was this burden on that exam, basically. Like, it is important. Then there was this thing that I've worked so hard, so I need to show that I've worked.
Absolutely. Hmm.
The thought that, and then there was this thing of like this kind of thing where I am one in this 12 lakh. What chances do I have?
Right. So I have to do well. That pressure of having to do well can sometimes overwhelm you, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Like if I have to get good, like in the top thing, then like how many of them will be from my city? Maybe two or three from top 10,000. So there's so
Right.
many centers and all. So I have to be in the top, let's say five from my city, from my center, and that too five from the 14 batches that there are who are giving
Right.
14 different pay.
Hmm.
That is something that affects you.
Yes.
Like it basically wants to push your mind ahead, but instead it pushes you downwards instead of forward.
Very well said. Hmm. Very well said. Hmm.
So that all this when it comes together along with the actual difficulty of the exam, it affects a lot during the exam basically,
Right. Right.
because you look at a question, you're basically, I know this, I studied it, I saw it day before yesterday, but
Hmm.
your mind is clouded with these other thoughts that it cannot recall that what you did 2 days ago.
Right. Hmm. Hmm.
And then you're like, I couldn't do a question I could have done yesterday.
Hmm.
That affects the next few questions you're doing.
Right.
And because the next few were affected and you couldn't do those, it keeps on going until the last question.
Right.
And then after the last question, you still doubt that the questions I did correctly, were they actually correct?
Right. So self confidence just goes for a toss, right?
Yeah, completely.
Right. So,
Also, there was no, I did not have any proper strategy.
hmm,
My strategy was solve everything.
right.
The exam is you get +4 if you're correct, but you'll get a -1 if you're wrong.
Yes.
That was not something accounted in my strategy. You're just solving and going on, and you're basically thinking that if I did one question correct, that is enough to compensate four wrong questions.
Hmm.
And you solve five extra, and you get to know five of them are wrong, all five. You get -5.
Hmm. And all these thoughts and emotions just start troubling you to a different extent, isn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah. Just keeps repeating, repeating, repeating over and over till it sucks your confidence, your own belief, and
yeah,
your basic productive ability, right?
yeah. And then you start thinking like maybe all I did for this 2 years was not enough.
Hmm. So it hits your core belief about yourself.
Yeah, yes. Like even though there is this other attempt, second attempt, you start to doubt that if you'll do anything better than this ever again in any exam.
Hmm.
Like it even affected easier exams than JEE.
Right.
Will I be able to do good? Like
Hmm.
something that I've done so well up till now, just because I made a mistake. Like I got bad marks in one exam.
Hmm.
Like that slightly also affected my boards, which were after my first attempt,
Hmm.
which I've actually done great. But the like while going to the exam, I'm like, how sure am I that I'm not gonna like mess this up the same way I did with the first JEE?
Right. And unless you have a way in which you can control these thoughts are going to overpower you, right? Which you realized.
Yeah, yes.
And so when you came to my mental coach, what happened? Like, what are the areas in which we could help you?
So when I came to my mental coach, the first thing was to analyze what had happened,
Yes.
and to analyze what was the goal and the difference of the goal from reality.
Hmm. Yes. We worked on self-awareness, isn't it? I think so. I remember that.
Yes. And then there was what was the reason of this gap between reality and expectation, and how to reduce them, how to bring reality more towards the expectation.
Hmm.
And then we also worked upon building confidence back, and we also talked about, I remember talking about ways to control the thoughts during
Yes.
exam and during studies,
Yes.
like uh, remembering what our purpose is for the day instead of thinking about the exam that is going to come.
Hmm. Right.
Like the purpose of every day is to prepare for that exam, not to worry about that exam.
But it's so difficult, right? You realize it's so difficult not to worry. And creating a
Mm,
strategy was so important for you, right? Of knowing
yes,
what to do to not worry.
yeah. And we also did this exercise of simulating what would happen in the next exam,
Yes. Visualization
like
exercises,
knowing the
remember.
environment. Yeah.
Yes.
The first exam, like the thing was that I did not, it was a completely new environment. But
Right.
for the next 2, 3 exams, it was the same center. So I knew a decent bit about the environment.
Hmm.
Visualizing would, like, it helped me to get over the things like something could go wrong. So how would I deal with it?
Hmm.
I still remember for my advanced exam, I had a buggy monitor.
Hmm.
The monitor had a pinkish shade, which was causing me problem to read on it.
Right.
But
Hmm.
I knew that I had to ignore this.
Hmm. Through the
That
visualization exercises that we did. Right.
yes.
Hmm.
And I gave the whole like 2 exams of 3 hours on that same monitor with a pink hue the whole time without any
Yes.
problem.
Yes. Without this mental training, I'm sure this would have affected you negatively, right?
Yes. Like I would be the
Yeah.
whole time trying to correct it or trying to ask someone to change the monitor or something, which would have
Hmm.
taken at least 5 to 10 minutes out of the 3 hours.
Right. Hmm.
And even those 5 minutes are important over there because they could literally solve one of your questions from the paper.
Absolute.
Those times.
Absolute. Absolute. Let's talk about strategy. I think so. A lot of students I see are confused about the strategy or not confident about the strategy, which actually affects them. We did a lot of work, right, on
Yeah.
strategy development, and more importantly, have been
Yes.
clear about a strategy. Can you give an insight about how that helped you?
So like for the first exam, there was no strategy for me. That
Hmm.
went downhill, straight downhill. It was, but for the second exam, like second mains and the advanced, I had a strategy ready.
Yes.
There's this thing like every exam has a different strategy, and every person for that exam has a different strategy.
Yes. And
Like
you, through
mains,
the training, could realize what your strategy was that works for you, right?
yeah, it took me weeks, like many mock exams to get to the strategy I finally used.
Yes. And we had to go through so many discussions. I remember that.
I think so. There were at least 5 to 6 drafts of that strategy
Yes.
before we came to
Yes.
the final one.
Right.
That was there
Yes.
for mains, and
Yes.
for advance it was completely different. The whole process
Completely
started again.
different. Absolutely. But that process, did that really help you feel that sense of confidence about how you're going to give that exam?
Yeah, sure, it surely did because now I knew that something was in my control.
Hmm.
Like we talked about all the variables there were at that in any exam, and out of that, one variable, which was my actions, were now in my control completely.
Yes. Absolutely. Well said.
It gave like a sense of that this thing is owned by me. This exam is owned by me now, and I can
Hmm.
control how this can go.
And that is
And
what dramatically increases your confidence and belief, right?
yeah, it helped me pretty well in few of the exams actually. Like
So to let me ask you a perspective. Imagine on a scale of 1 to 10, your pressure on your first mains before we started training. What was it on a scale of 1 to 10?
it would be 11 actually.
It, it would be. And then in your mains too, after we started my mental coach training and in your advance, where was it?
I would say near 4 or 5. I wouldn't say it was very low. There was a bit of
Of
pressure,
course.
but it was controllable and dealable.
Exactly. Exactly. We don't want it to be too low. We want it to be in the right optimum pressure, isn't it? Like if you remember, we talked about it. Wow, a big difference, right?
Actually. And I still remember I also gave bits at that time. Uh, Mid-cert was again
Yes.
another like 2 exams, 2 attempts.
Right.
My first attempt was again a decent one, but uh, first attempt again I had a basic strategy at that time, but up till the second attempt I had a much better strategy,
Yes.
and the second attempt result was like pretty like a huge difference in the first and second.
That's so
Like
nice.
more
That's so
than
nice.
30 marks, 10% of
Wow.
the marks increased.
Wow.
That just changed my branch itself, basically.
So this was almost like life changing, right? Destiny changing,
Exactly.
this
Yes.
training. Do you look at this as a
I
life
am
skill?
Yeah, because I am actually still using it for my quizzes, my exams, and assignments over here.
Oh, that's so
It's
nice.
basically applicable everywhere in life, I would say, because almost everything in our life is an exam,
Hmm.
and we just need to know how to deal with it.
Well said. And I'm so happy to hear that you are still using it. It's and still using those mental training strategies for all the things that you're doing. So nice to know that.
Yes. Like I still like spend at least 5 minutes of my any exam, even today, like to strategize on after seeing the question paper. Like create a
Hmm.
strategy. Like okay, I can do this question, this question, this question. This will take more
Hmm.
time, so I'll do it at the end.
Hmm.
Then
Hmm.
I'll do the rest.
Yeah.
Sometimes, like even like now, like, I'll get a curveball like, oh, you cannot go back to the previous question in a quiz, and
Hmm.
they'll tell us that after 10 seconds of the quiz starting.
Okay.
The whole strategy changes now.
Right.
If you're
Right.
100% sure that if you give time, you can solve this, then only. Otherwise, just leave it. Don't spend too much
Right.
time on it.
Right. Nice. So Sudhanshu, finally, what would you tell the students who are giving JEE NEET exams? Do you think they should look at mental training as a natural part of their journey and not look at it as an option?
It's not at all an option, I would say. You need to understand your own thought process, and you need to control it to get your most optimum result.
Yes.
Because for the student phase of 11, 12, which is JEE and NEET preparation time, most of our time went into just studying, and there was nothing about our mind. We never thought about our mind, and that
Yeah.
causes a deterioration in the performance later.
Mm.
And if we are not ready to deal with anything new, any curveball that they could give, the whole like thing is gone.
Yeah. It's like playing
You
cards,
lose
right? It just goes
almost
down.
your
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
control. It's important to have a mental control over yourself, basically.
How was your experience with my mental coach? I'm sure normally there's a lot of resistance about mental. Whenever we talk mental, we think, oh my God, what's going to happen? And how was your experience, therefore?
So, from my experience, like any third person would think that this is some mental psychiatric coaching and all. But from my experience, I can say this is not any psychiatric sessions or anything like that. It is just trying to control everything that you have in your hand and getting to know what you can do instead of what should be done. It is
So,
basically getting your mind ready.
right. So, just as you went to a coaching class to learn through a process how to study maths, in a way, would you equate that to how you learned how to train your mind with the process at My Mental Coach?
Yes, surely. Because there are many things that were not told to us during our preparation that are
Hmm.
actually necessary.
Hmm.
Like there's this thought process I feel in all of the coaching side, because I've seen other friends over here who have come from other cities. There's
Right.
still a bit of like thing that is common, that every moment you waste is means that you're going down by some ranks, because that moment
Hmm.
is used by someone else to study.
Hmm. Hmm.
But I feel it's not that way, because that is that thought process is actually affecting the resting time that we give
Yes.
our mind. And that I used to think it the same way, but it was this process that told me, no, you need to rest.
Yes, I remember. I think
Nobody
so.
is
We created a very clear recovery, mental recovery process for you, isn't it? If I remember correctly.
Yeah,
Right.
yes,
Hmm.
because even here,
I
even now,
continue.
like there are exams there, like everyone's like, tomorrow is an exam, I'll study the whole night.
And what do
And
you
then
do?
after, I am dead sleep by 11:30 max. I'm
Fantastic.
done with
So
the
nice to
day.
hear.
I sleep at 11:30. I'll wake up at 6:37, go for my breakfast, and then go for the exam.
That's so nice to hear that this mental training has helped you not only for your JE, but it's actually now become a part of your life and it's helping you in so many ways. So nice to hear. I remember this wonderful thing you shared. You know, you came out of your JE mains too, I think so it was. And you said, I don't know whether you remember it, but you shared that you sent that WhatsApp to me saying, Swaroop sir, today anxiety got replaced by happiness and excitement.
Yes.
What can you tell me about that actual thing? What did you imagine that you could give your exam in such a relaxed manner?
Before this mental coaching, no. After, like, the process made me understand that an exam is not something you fear. It
Hmm.
is something you control
Hmm. Very
by your
nice.
own actions and your thoughts. The first time I gave, it was just anxiety.
Yeah.
That affected how I performed. But second time I was ready. I knew what I had to do, and I knew what my purpose was. Instead of thinking of the marks, like first attempt, I still remember like counting, okay, this is correct, so 4 marks. This is correct, so 4 marks. I'm
Hmm.
not sure about this, so -1. And at the end, I'm like, okay, so I'll get these many marks at least.
Hmm.
That was my thought process in the first exam. Second exam, I'm just giving the question. I know it, I can do it, I'll solve it. I don't, I'll keep it for later if I need to.
So you were absolutely able to control your thoughts, your emotions during that part with the process that really worked for you.
Yes.
And you realized, I'm sure that it's not a one day process. Like it, we did a lot of work in that mental training for you to get to where you felt so relaxed.
Yes. It was not a short process. I was like, it,
Yeah.
it took so many drafts to get to a process or get to that thought. Like, how should a thought be? Like, which will remove my anxiety? It took quite a bit of time to get up till that.
Yes. But then there was an aha moment when that happened,
Yes.
once that happened. Your parents
And
must have also been relieved and proud through that process because they must have also faced a lot of challenges in that journey, right?
yes, because basically they were completely involved in my preparation part. And I still remember like the thing that actually I still remember vividly is coming out of a bit set 2.
Hmm.
That was, and the thing about bit set is like every exam is different, and bit set is a bit slightly even different than what you think, because they don't keep you waiting for a result.
Hmm.
They tell you your marks the second you submit your paper.
Hmm.
So that is a bit weird about them, but that is how they work.
Hmm.
And so I knew my marks the first time. Also, like I'd gotten around 270 something out of 300, around 360 out of 360. And the next time I came out, I'm with 311.
Wow, big difference.
Yes. And even that, like this year, there was this like our batch actually faced a lot of problem with the admission thing. There was this huge cutoff not decreasing and all during admission process. I think that is a part of that is because of us being the COVID boards batch, where our
Right.
batch gave our 10th boards, like basically gave our 10 boards in COVID based on
Hmm.
our internals. So that affected a lot, and like cutoffs weren't decreasing and all. But still, I could get CS in bits over here. Like that is a huge thing for me even now.
Yes. So nice to hear that. Thank you so much, Sudhashu. This was so wonderful to get your candid comments and a final parting message to all the students who will be watching about mental training.
Uh, I just say that any journey for an exam is not a straight path. It is filled with ups and downs. You just need to know how to control your vehicle, and that vehicle is your mind. You
Yes.
need to know when to speed up on an uphill and when to slow down at a downhill.
Hmm.
And that is not something you'll get in one day. You'll learn that in one day itself. It is a process that takes time and a process that needs method. And I think that method was what my mental coach gave me. So it's not something like you can just decide that today I'll control my mind and you'll have it in your control the whole time.
Hmm. It's not going to happen like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Wonderful, Sudhanshu. Thank you so much for these wonderful words. And for me also, the greatest satisfaction is to see students come out happy, come out satisfied.
Mm.
And to see the joy on the students once they come out after mental training and replacing that anxiety with happiness is the greatest joy, and that is what pushes me to help my athletes, students who come to my mental coach. But you explained it so beautifully, Sudhanshu, and I'm so happy you're still using it for your own life. And I wish you all the best for your journey. And we'll, of
Thank you,
course,
sir.
be keeping in touch very soon. Thank you so much for your time. Wish you all
Yes,
the
sir.
best.
Thank you, sir.
Just hold on. Please don't close.